Let's look at the difference between Next.js template files and layout files, and we'll learn how to apply some custom page transition animations along the way. Hello and welcome, I'm Dave. Today we'll learn about Next.js templates and layouts, and I'll provide links to all resources in the description below. I'll also provide a link for you to join my Discord server where you can discuss web development with other students, and you can ask questions that I can answer and receive help from other viewers too. I look forward to seeing you there. Okay, I've got VS Code open and I've already started a Next.js project, and this code is available at the link in the description. Now what we have is a basic Next.js website, all static rendered pages right now. So I have my root page.tsx over here, and you can see some lorem ipsum in that. I've also got a contact page and an about page. So really just a page with three statically rendered pages, or a site, I should say, with three statically rendered pages. But we're going to look at how the layout file differs from a template file. Now you are required to have a root layout file. So if you've worked with Next.js at all, you're already familiar with a root layout file like the one you see here. I'm importing a header component that is also statically rendered. And as we come down, you can see the root layout accepts children. And so that passes everything else into your application. And I've got the header right here above that. And the root layout is also going to have your HTML and your body tags. So now with that quick overview of the application, let's scroll down and look at the tailwind.config.ts file. I can press Alt-Z to wrap anything down. This is what's installed standard with your Next.js project when you choose to use Tailwind. I haven't changed anything yet, but we're going to add shadcn-ui. Now you don't have to, but my code has done that because shadcn actually adds a dependency we need, and that's tailwindcss-animate. So with that said, let's open up a terminal window with Control and the backtick, and I'm going to paste in the command here to install shadcn and initialize it in our project. So as you can see, that's npx shadcn-ui at latest, and then init. I'm going to press enter. It will ask a few questions as it adds shadcn to the project, and I'm just going to go with the default. And then I like stone, so I'm going to pick that one out of the different base colors you can choose from. And CSS variables for colors, yes please. So I'll click yes or press enter on yes for that. It's going to quickly install shadcn into our project. From there, I'm going to go to the globals.css, so I'll change this. But let's look at the tailwind.config.ts first and see what shadcn has added. It adds several things now. Our file is much larger, but as I scroll towards the bottom, notice here we have a keyframes, and there inside of keyframes is accordion down and accordion up identified automatically. So we've got a from and a to. Those are animations that are now defined for shadcn, and then we can see them listed under the animation object here as well. And then notice the plugins. So it says require Tailwind CSS-animate. So when you add shadcn-ui to your project, you get all of this added to your Tailwind config. And so now we have that dependency that we would need, Tailwind CSS-animate, to make our own custom animations as well. And now, like I said, I want to go to the globals.css file here. One change I'm going to make, I'm not applying light and dark mode here in this quick project. I'm just going to override the root here that is the light mode, because I think dark mode is going to save our eyes. So I'll just change this dark class to the root itself, and so now it will be dark by default. Okay, with those changes in place, let's just get an idea of what the basic project looks like before we add any animations. So I'm going to open up the terminal with Control and the backtick and type npm run dev. This should start it on localhost 3000. I'll Control click that, and it should open up in Chrome for us. And here we've got the basic project. So you can see I've got a header that's going all the way across the page right now, and that was what we imported into the layout. Then I've got the first page here, the home page. It's got some random lorem ipsum on it. We can go to the about page, has some more random lorem ipsum, and then we've also got the contact page. So just the three pages, all statically rendered. We can navigate between them, and this header is in the layout, so it doesn't re-render. but the pages do. So as we navigate between, this header does not re-render. And that's what a layout file does. It just wraps the content and does not re-render on every navigation. But of course it will re-render if I click refresh and it refreshes the whole page. So we can really show this visually in our project if we add an animation. Let's go back to VS Code. I'm back in VS Code. I'll close the terminal window and I'm going to scroll down to the tailwind.config.ts file. So I will scroll up a little bit here under keyframes where these animations were defined for shadcn. I'm going to add a custom one here as well. So underneath the accordion up, I'll add my own. I'm going to just call this slide. And I'll define this with an object, and then it's going to have a from and a to as well. So here's from. And for the from object, I'm going to say transform. And then inside of that, I'm going to say translate X, and I'll put 100%. Now after that, I can put a comma, but I also need to put a comma after my from object and add a to object. And then I'm going to have another transform. And here I'm going to say translate X. This will be 0%. Okay, after I've done that, I'm not quite finished. I've defined the from and the to for the slide, but I need to come down to the animation section and add slide as well. So now underneath the accordion up here, I'm going to add slide, and then I'm going to say slide, and this is 750 milliseconds. You could change this to your taste, of course, and then ease in dash out. So you're essentially writing your CSS animation here. And if you haven't worked with keyframes and animation before, I do cover that in my CSS course that is available on my channel. With those changes now applied to our Tailwind config where we've defined our animation, now let's apply that animation to the header. And we can see here I've already applied it. It's in the nav of the header, and I just put in the class animate-slide. And that's what we defined in our Tailwind config. So that should be applied to the header when we load the page. And remember, it's in the layout, so it should only happen when we load the page and not when we navigate between each page. Let's go back, and we've restarted here, or if you haven't restarted, you can restart your project just to make sure the changes take effect. And now let's go to the project itself here. I'm going to reload the page. Let's see what happens to the header. It slides right in. But when I navigate to each individual page, the header doesn't animate at all. It only happens when I first load the application or reload the application. And that's because it's in the layout. The layout does not re-render on every navigation, but only when the application is refreshed or loaded. Hey guys, I hope you're enjoying the video. You may be surprised to learn that 3 out of every 4 viewers, nearly 75% of all people who watch my channel, aren't subscribed. So I just wanted to take a quick second and remind you to hit that subscribe button. It really helps me out. And if you really like my videos, you can get exclusive content and support my channel even more by joining my Patreon at patreon.com/DaveGray. Thanks for your consideration. And now back to the video. Now I'm in the docs where it discusses template files. They're another special kind of file much like layouts. Let's see what it says. A template file is similar to a layout in that it wraps a layout or page, but unlike layouts that persist across routes and maintain state, templates are given a unique key, and that means the children client components reset their state on navigation. So unlike a layout, every time we navigate, a template will re-render. And where does this set in the file tree? It sets between the layout and your page file. So just right in between there. So the main difference is that it will re-render every time compared to a layout that will only render when the application is loaded or refreshed. Let's copy this example template code and go back to our project and add this template to our project. Okay, I'm back in VS Code. We'll close the terminal window. I'm going to scroll up here, click on the layout just so I'm in the root directory here where I want to create the template file, and I'll create template.tsx. And now inside of that, I'll just paste in the code that we got from the docs here, and you can see it's a function named template. It also receives children just like the layout does, and it wraps those children when it renders. Now this visually won't add anything yet to our project. So in order to visually see this change, let's add one more custom animation. I'm going to go back to the Tailwind config, and now where we define the keyframes for slide, so right underneath that, I'm going to define a new keyframe section. I'm going to call this one appear. And now inside of this object, we'll have a from and to again. So here's the from, and I'm going to choose a different property. I'm going to say opacity because I'm going to want this to gradually appear on the page. So I'm going to start off with a value of 0, but I'm also going to transform because I want it to just gently nudge upwards as it appears. So here I'm going to say translate, and I want Y this time, and I'm going to start with 4 rems. So we'll just move it down 4 rems essentially. And then after the from, we'll add our to. And in this object, we also need the opacity, which now will be a 1, which we went from 0 essentially to 100%, or 0 to 1, if you will. And besides the opacity, we need a transform once again, and this would be a translate Y once again. And inside of the translate Y, I'm going to put 0%, so back where we expect it to be. It will start 4 rem down and gradually nudge upwards as it slowly appears as well. And now remember, we also need to add it to the animation object below. So now I'm going to say appear. Inside of this, we'll say appear, and once again, I want 750 milliseconds. You can change that to your taste. I'm going to say ease in and out as well. We'll save that, and now we need to apply this animation to the template. Let's go back to the template file, and just on this div that wraps around the children, we can add a class name. And inside the class name, we'll say animate appear. And I also noticed that we could use just a little bit of padding on our pages between that header and the content. So I'm going to say px is 4, and well, let's just say p-4 because I'll put the x margins and y margins the same. So we're just adding a little bit of padding, and we're doing that on the template as well because it wraps around the children. Okay, let's open the terminal window, and the project is still running here. You might want to refresh or restart, but let's see if it applies. Without that, we'll go back to our project, and notice we instantly got that animation. So if I refresh, we're going to get the animation from the header that comes with the layout that only happens when the app loads or is refreshed. And as we navigate to any page, including the very first page when the app loads, we'll get the other animation from the template. So let me navigate first, and you can see this applies on every page now because that template re-renders on every navigation. But if I refresh, then we also get the animation from the layout that only renders when it loads. And as I navigate, we never get that header animation again. So animations are a great way to show the difference between a layout and a template, but that's not all you can do with layouts and templates, of course. So what might be another good use for a template file? Well, showing breadcrumbs on a site is one example that you might want to do. That's a fairly common feature on websites to actually show the path essentially that led to that page. So I'll show you how you can do that with a template as well. And there are some other suggestions in the docs, but it does not really mention breadcrumbs directly. One thing it does say on the layout page in the docs, though, is layouts cannot access the path name. However, we will be able to do that with a template file. And to do that, we're going to have to make our template file a client component, which you can do. So let's go back to VS Code. I'm back in VS Code. We'll close the terminal window. Let's go to the top of our template file, and let's add the use client directive. And after we do that, let's go ahead and bring in the use path name hook. And of course, we have to have a client component to use hooks. So we'll say use path name. There it is. Now after that, we want to add just a little bit more here to our component where we render. So I'm going to add parentheses, and I didn't really mean to come down one extra line there, but it happened. Let me pull that back out. There we go. If I save, I get the formatting I want, but I want to add just a little bit more here as well. So What I'm going to do to just save a little bit of time is copy something that I had before, and this is going to go above the children here. We're going to stay wrapped in this div. I'm just going to put in the path name here, and I guess we haven't set the path name from the hook yet, so I'll get that as well, and that's going to come right above. There we go. So we're using the use path name hook to get the path name value. Then I'm using this pre tag to display the actual breadcrumbs on each page. So if we save that, we've got the formatting we want now. So we've got the pre here and then the children that the template wraps around, kind of like we did with the header in the layout file. So now let's go back and see how this appears in the application. And of course, you could change this formatting to taste as well. But now we've got the slash here because we're on the home page. So that's our breadcrumb for the home page. If we go to About, it re-renders and we've got the About breadcrumb. Likewise, we have that for Contact. And of course, if you were in nested directories, you would have a longer breadcrumb here as well. And speaking of nested directories, remember that every nested directory could have its own root, or not root, its own layout and its own template file. Right now, we've just been working in the root directory with a root layout and template, but each nested directory can have their own as well. Now, overall, I think this little project has given you a good introduction to layout and template files and what the difference is. But of course, I didn't cover everything. Always go back and reference the docs and learn everything you can about Next.js or whatever technology you're working with. Hey guys, giving a quick shout out to my patrons. Holy Coder is a progress provider and Eldad is a member at the senior level. Also, thank you to all of the junior members. You're all helping me reach my goals. And if you haven't checked out my Patreon, it's got exclusive content and early release content. And it's not one of those Patreons that doesn't get many posts. I'm active on there every week, so please check it out if you haven't. Remember to keep striving for progress over perfection. And a little progress every day will go a very long way. Please give this video a like if it's helped you. And thank you for watching and subscribing. You're helping my channel grow. Have a great day, and let's write more code together very soon.